Gurus are teaching you sales wrong. Now, if you can't call sales, get ghosted by prospects, and can't make a single profit, keep watching, because I'm about to share with you the entire process I've used to help hundreds of companies scale from 6 to 7 figures and some to 8 figures. Now, these are the exact steps I follow to close almost every call I get on. Now, first of all, what's a sales process? All good things in sales stem from one thing: framework, a roadmap, and a process. Winging it and jumping headfirst into sales can sound like a pretty good idea, but that's what a lot of sales gurus might tell you. Just start and slowly improve with time. Now, while that might be true for a lucky few, but for most people, making one mistake in sales could cost thousands of dollars and countless hours of wasted time. Imagine taking 1 month to set up a call with a prospect only to butcher it because you didn't have a solid plan or pitch in place. They say all the wrong things, or pitch too early, end up scaring our prospects away, and that's your entire profits down the drain. Think about that. That's why having a sales process is so important. You need a framework to follow while you're in the middle of the call, or else you just get sidetracked and spin the call in circles. So if you're a beginner, I'm sure it happened to you before. You go back and forth with your prospects, and 1 second you're talking about your product, and the next you're trying to instigate a small talk. Makes you look sloppy and unprepared. And when I say process, I'm not talking about using a pre-made script that you can copy and paste your prospects' names into. A good sales process is so much more than that. It's basically a framework for you to check back on. It really doesn't matter if you're a beginner or an expert. A good sales process can be the difference between making money like clockwork to your business every month versus staying stuck at a few thousand. Now, without further ado, here's the sales process that I follow, and I've taught thousands of other salespeople to help them to bring in millions of dollars. Now, step number 1 is the 55-38-7 rule. The number one thing you should start with before you even hop on a call with a prospect is understanding this: the mirror effect. Now, here's the thing: your client will mirror whatever vibe you give off on the sales call. So if you come across as bored, you're detached, your clients will be the same. If you're too professional and not genuine enough, your prospects also wouldn't feel at ease. That's why the number one thing you should keep track of is your energy. And what do I mean by energy? This is the vibe you want to give off to your prospect. Sure, it might be good to come off as bubbly and personable, but it's also important to be professional, because whatever energy you give off, your client will mirror you. Let me tell you about the 55-38-7 rule comes in. This is how it works. 55% of your message and energy is felt through your body language, and 38% of the message is conveyed through your tone, and 7% of your message is communicated through your words. So if you combine all three of these concepts, it will be the perfect balance of authenticity and confidence. So before your call starts, I want you to write down the 55-38-7 rule on a piece of paper, and make sure that you're always keeping it in mind during the call. But before you can start making calls, you have to take note of the golden rule when you're starting out as a salesperson or closing. Step number 2: how to prepare for a call. Now, nobody wants to receive an email from someone and instantly get bombarded with things to buy, your offers, how much they should pay for products or services that they don't really care about. And this golden rule is: don't pitch too early. Like, literally, just hold it off. Honestly, you should save it for the last, because right now, your goal is to build up the trust, the respect, the resonance, and the way you do that is by slowly building up the amount of desire the prospect feel for what you're selling. So one way you can do that is by giving them your product's touch point. Touch point is any moment a user interacts with you and the company you work for. This can be anything from emails, LinkedIn messages. The more genuine and high quality your touch points are, the more engaged your prospects become. For example, personal voice note. Now imagine you get a voice note like this: "Hey Gary, how's this going? So I just ended my meeting and I was just thinking about you, about how we can work together. And some of the things that I think about would really be able to add value to your business is this. Right? I'm really excited about working together with you. So many ideas is running through my mind. Let me know when it's a good time to talk." Imagine that, or a text message. But forging better relationship with your prospects, there are 2 other killer benefits that's going to make it easier for you to close the deal. Number 1, they give you the information you need to make the sale. Now, that's really important. And when you get on a call with them, the touch points are going to be the pointers you're going to use to ask all the right questions. And that will help you to gauge how much they need your product. So when you're designing your touch point, always ask yourself this: what would they want to know? You give them information about your product in exchange for information about their system, systems, what past products they've already used before, why it hasn't worked out for them. That way, you'll be able to tailor your questions to their problems and needs during the actual sales calls. Plus, you're also giving them a reason to keep in contact with you. Showing them it's important to turn up, a prospect will want to keep the conversation going with you if they realize that you're going to be genuinely interested in helping them and they can trust you. In return, they're going to start to feel like they should be authentic, open, cooperative as you are. They'll respond to your emails more oftenly, or maybe even giving you more context about their business or work, and eventually they'll want to push things forward into an actual call. Now, at that point, you're finally ready to move on to the next step and join a sales call. Step number 3, the sales call. And this is what almost every beginner salespeople dread, but don't worry, because everything you need to get the prospect to close has already been taught to you. And that's because of the pointers that you have gathered from your touch points, your fact finding. You should have all of that listed down in advance for the call to make sure to review them and prep yourself. But what do you do with all this data? Simple. You ask the right questions, you get your prospects to talk. And how do you do that? Use these 6 simple steps. Number 1, what's in it for you? As a salesperson, you shouldn't just talk on and on for the sake of it, right? The sales calls focus on the prospect, so we have to treat them with that in mind. So you want to bring up the context you got from the touch points and your fact finding and make your prospects expand on them, elaborate more, tell you more, and show how you might be able to help them. You need to have the same mentality as a doctor, because you only help them if they lay out all their problems and they're open with you, so you know how to help them. Number 2, bring them on a hot seat, because now that you know all the problems, you can start engaging with them. You get them to tell you about the issues, how that's affecting them personally and at work, and you go back and forth, and don't be afraid to dig out more answers, and imagine that you're going through their problems layer by layer, because if they say they're having problems finding new leads, ask them why they think so. And if they tell you that there's an issues with the content, get them to explain more. And to finally, you're at the root cause, the final layer, which could be something like bad new hires and lack of knowledge or anything along those lines. Step number 3, associate the brightness of the future with you. Now that you finally understand the deeper reason for why they need your product, it's time to finally start selling. But you don't want to start closing yet. Instead, just explain to them how your product or service is going to be able to solve that deep fundamental problem that they're suffering with, and that your product is the only thing out there that will help them to fix the issue. Because you have to position yourself as the best solution. And if they don't choose you, they'll be missing out on the chance to finally fix all these problems that, they've been dealing with for so long. But make sure that you only make promises that you can actually keep, because you can't set up crazy high expectations only to fail on the delivery. And that's a surefire way to destroy your reputation. So we only give them what you can confidently fulfill, and after that, you'll be ready to close. Next, ask for permission and pitch, because now that you've understand the challenges, the desires, now you have a full picture of what your prospect wants. So it's really about asking for the permission to talk about your products and actually weave in some of their pain points and their desires into your product's benefit. And you do that again and again and again, amplifying how your solutions that you have is exactly what will solve the problem and get the results that they want. Next, how to deal with objections. Now that you've laid out what they can expect from you, there might be some pushback. And this is where most salespeople quit. The moment the prospect throws an objection, they start to lose their cool, you start to panic. But that doesn't mean that you should just throw in the towel, give up, walk away. And there are 3 steps for you to deal with any objections and turn it around to a successful sale. The first thing, ignore the objection. I don't mean you should just cut off your prospects and try to debate with them. Instead, listen to this entire objection and what they've done and shift their attention away from it. For example, your client says, Shannon, I need to think about it. What you should really do is to completely ignore and not handle that, and instead ask them saying that, earlier on, Gary, you talked about you want some specific results in regards to this. Can you expand more on that first? Step number 2, divert your attention. Now, what do I mean by shift your attention away? Notice what I just done earlier on. I talked about a random topic that actually leads to my sale. And that's because when someone has made an objection, you don't really want to expand that, because that would reiterate that the opinion is right, and instead divert them to the right focus that bring them closer to a sale, such as what's the results that they want, why do they want to work with you. Step number 3, focus on their intention. So early on, I just talked about ignoring them, diverting it, and now how can you amplify it? What's the results that they want? want? Why do they want it? Why is it meaningful for them? What would they do with all the results? How would they feel? Redirect them back to that point, because if the reasons is going to be more than the results, they don't want to buy. But if the results that they want is more than the reasons that they give, they change their mind. So what I want you to do is to repeat the same formula for every objection you come across, and I guarantee you your prospects will be willing to be closed by the end of it. Next, assuring the deal. Because once you've overcome all the objections and you've done sharing about your offer, your prospects gave you a permission that they want to work with you, they paid the money, they signed a contract, you gotta be able to put the cherry on the top of the cake and have them feel secured and assured that they made a right decision. And that's the emotional part that you have to assure. Now, how do we do that? Very easy. Now remember, you have to make this part count, because most people think that the moment they get a yes, their job is done. But in reality, this is really only the beginning if you want to avoid people just backing out. After all, if you don't approach this with confidence, you're gonna risk look like you don't know what you're doing, or there's a gap between how they knew things in the sales call and after that. So have a quick plan prepared beforehand on how you plan to onboard them, what they can expect from you, how you can start working together, and what you do afterwards. It depends on your product services on how you onboard them, because no matter what it is that you do, I guarantee that the sales process I've provided will be enough to start you on the right track and finally start closing hundreds of sales. And if you do all of this, there's literally no way that you're not successful in sales. So that's it, the best sales process of 2024. So if you're not ready to implement that yet and you want to start at a more beginner level, I've created a full guide to help you to go from someone new to making millions of sales in 2024. So watch this video for that. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.